You don't remember the exact moment you stopped being yourself. That's the thing no one warns you about. Not your supervisor, not the department psychologist with her laminated pamphlets, not the 18 months of training that felt, at the time, like it was preparing you for everything. It wasn't. The first day they hand you a different name, it fits like a borrowed coat, too wide at the shoulders. You are now Marcus. Marcus grew up in Riverside. Marcus has a sealed juvenile record and a cousin doing 8 years in Corcoran. Marcus smokes Marlboro Reds and drinks his coffee black because he doesn't trust anything sweet. You don't smoke. You take yours with 2 sugars. You stand in front of a bathroom mirror in a studio apartment the department rents under a shell company. The address is real. The furniture came from a storage unit. There is a water stain on the ceiling shaped like nothing in particular, and you stare at it for a long time on the first night, trying to remember the last thing that felt like yours. The apartment smells like industrial cleaner and someone else's cigarettes. Your handler, a man named Reyes, briefs you every 72 hours at a dry cleaning shop on Fletcher Avenue. He wears the same gray windbreaker every time. He calls you by your cover name even in the debriefing room because he says the slip of a real name at the wrong moment has ended careers, has ended lives. He says this without drama. That's how you know he means it. You are 29 years old. You have been a police officer for 4 years. You volunteered for this unit because you believed in it. That word, believed, will become interesting to you later. Right now, it just feels like a fact. The neighborhood you've been inserted into sits in a 6-block radius around a check cashing place and a tire shop that hasn't changed a tire in 3 years. You learn the rhythms quickly. Who sits on which stoop? Which corner belongs to whom between 6 and 10 p.m.? Who goes quiet when a certain car rolls past? You are a student of patterns, and the patterns here are precise as clockwork, which surprises you. You expected chaos. What you find is a highly organized, informal economy with its own rules, its own hierarchy, its own HR department of sorts. Consequences swift and non-negotiable for underperformance. You start small. You buy. Twice a week, same rotation of faces. $40 here, $80 there. You wear a wire the size of a matchbook taped below your left collarbone. Every transaction is logged. Every handshake documented. You are building a case that will take, Reyes tells you, at least 14 months. 14 months as Marcus. You nod. You've done the math. You go home to the apartment that is not your home, and you sit on a mattress that is not your mattress, and you watch television until something behind your eyes goes quiet enough to sleep. By month 4, you've moved up 1 tier. This happens not because you're promoted, but because a mid-level runner named Darius decides you're dependable. Dependable means you show up when you say you will. You don't ask unnecessary questions. You don't flinch at numbers. This is the first lesson. In this world, trust is not given. It is observed into existence. Darius is 24 and drives a leased Infiniti and has a daughter whose photo he keeps on his phone screen. He talks about her often. Her name is Amara. She's 6. He is, by every metric the department cares about, a significant target. By every metric you are beginning to accumulate privately, he is a person. You log this thought. You don't share it with Reyes. Your new role involves moving product between 2 apartments. You don't touch the supply, you carry a bag. You tell yourself this distinction matters. The department's case file confirms it does, legally, procedurally. It matters on paper in ways that don't entirely translate to the weight of the bag in your hand at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday in February. The temperature that February drops to 19 degrees Fahrenheit on the coldest night. You stand outside a building on Morrow Street for 40 minutes waiting for a handoff that arrives late. Your breath clouds in front of your face. Your wire is cold against your skin. You think about the academy, the obstacle course, the classroom, the instructor who told your class that undercover work was the most important and most invisible work in law enforcement. Invisible. You understand that word differently now. By month 7, you've been introduced to a man named Cortez. Cortez is not a target. Cortez is the kind of person who exists above targets in an atmospheric layer the department has been trying to breach for 2 years. He is quiet the way expensive things are quiet. He looks at you for a long time the first night you meet, at a card game in the back of a restaurant that serves as 3 different kinds of business simultaneously. He doesn't ask you anything. He watches you lose $200 at cards and refill his glass and say nothing. You understand this is a test. You pass it by treating the $200 as nothing, because Marcus would. There are rules. They are not written anywhere. You do not initiate conversation about business. You let the other person arrive there. You accept hospitality, food, drink, because refusal signals distrust, and distrust is the only currency that cannot be managed. You remember birthdays, which in this world are mentioned casually and filed with the precision of intelligence reports. You keep your personal mythology, Marcus's mythology, internally consistent across every interaction, because these people talk to each other constantly, and a story that differs by a single detail between two conversations is a story with a crack in it, and cracks are mortal. Reyes reviews your reports every 72 hours. He marks corrections in red pen, a detail you embellished slightly, a timeline that doesn't quite match the wire recording. He doesn't raise his voice, he underlines. He says, precision matters more than story. He says this with the gray windbreaker and the flat eyes of a man who has run 4 undercover operations and attended 3 funerals that were related to that work, though he will never confirm the connection. By month 9, you are spending approximately 80% of your waking hours as Marcus. The remaining 20%, your debriefs, your mandatory psychological check-ins, 2 hours on Sunday when you drive 40 minutes to a parking structure and sit in your personal vehicle and listen to voicemails from your mother, these hours begin to feel like the fiction. This is not a complaint, it is a clinical observation. You note this in your own private log, separate from the department's. You don't know why you're keeping it. You keep it anyway. The psychological check-ins are with a department contracted therapist named Dr. Falk. She asks you every 2 weeks whether you feel anchored to your actual identity. You say yes. This is technically true in the way that the answer to "Are you alive?" is technically yes, even when things are going wrong internally. She signs off. You are cleared for continued operation. The case is now 11 months old. The department has enough for 6 arrests, 2 of which are significant, but Reyes wants Cortez. The structure of the operation is built around Cortez. Everyone else is a rung on a ladder, and the ladder leans against Cortez's door. You are the one climbing it.
You call your sister on a Thursday. She says you sound different. You ask her what she means. She says she doesn't know exactly, just different. Flatter, maybe. You tell her you've been tired. She says okay. There is a pause that lasts 3 seconds. You count, because counting is a habit now. And then she talks about something else, and you are grateful, and then you are alone again. Your apartment, your real apartment, which you visit on Sundays, has begun to feel like a hotel. You stand in your kitchen sometimes and cannot remember which cabinet the mugs are in. You find out by opening them. There is something about this that you don't examine directly. The relationships in Marcus's world are, paradoxically, more textured. Darius talks about Amara's first-grade teacher. A woman named Priya, who runs a bodega 3 blocks over, brings you coffee sometimes without being asked, because she has decided, through some private algorithm of generosity, that you look like you need it. A man named Elliot, who is 63 and functions as something like a neighborhood elder, tells you, once unprompted, that you remind him of his nephew. These are not sources. These are not assets. These are, by every framework you have been given, collateral figures, civilians adjacent to the operation. And yet, you log Elliot's statement. You do not annotate it. By month 11, you have reduced contact with your 2 closest friends to approximately twice a month. Not intentionally, not from any specific decision. It happens the way erosion happens. Grain by grain, each individual loss imperceptible, the shape only visible from a distance. You are not at a distance. You are inside it. Reyes tells you the operation is close. He says, maybe 6 more weeks. He has said this twice before. You understand that timelines in this work are pressure instruments as much as they are predictions. You say, I'm good. He looks at you with the flat eyes. He nods. The room is a back office above a garage on a street whose name you will not say out loud again for years. There are 5 people. 4 of them you know. The 5th is someone Cortez has brought in from outside, and the outside is not a good direction in this room right now. Something shifted in the last 40 minutes. A handoff that should have happened didn't. Someone's phone has been answered by someone unexpected. The air has changed its chemistry. You have been in uncomfortable rooms before. This one is different in a specific way. In uncomfortable rooms, everyone is watching one person. In this room, everyone is watching everyone. And when everyone watches everyone, you understand that one of the people being watched is you. Cortez is calm. This is the most dangerous version of him. He pours 2 fingers of something amber into a glass and sets it on the table in front of you. He says, "Prove it." And here is where the script, the 18 months of training, the contingency frameworks, the exit protocols memorized in a classroom on a Tuesday afternoon in a building that smelled like dry erase markers, here is where all of it arrives at a single point, and the point is very small, and you are standing directly on it. The glass is on the table. You know what's in it. You know what proving it means. Your wire is cold against your collarbone. Your backup, who was positioned 3 blocks north, is not responding to the signal sequence because 40 minutes ago something happened that you don't have full information about, and Reyes is not in the earpiece because the earpiece came out when Cortez's associate patted you down at the door and you managed barely to pocket it, but it is in your pocket and not in your ear, and the room is watching. This is not a training scenario. This is the training scenario that training scenarios approximate. You think about the case file. 14 months, 63 documented transactions, 6 viable arrests, and the one the department has been building toward for 2 years. You think about Darius's daughter, about Elliot, who thinks you remind him of his nephew. You think about the Sunday parking structure, your mother's voicemail, the mug cabinet you've forgotten. You think, which side of the glass am I on? And this thought, quiet, arriving without alarm, without drama, without any of the cinematic weight the training materials implied it would carry, this thought is the one that doesn't leave. You make a choice. The specific nature of the choice is not the point. The point is the moment before the choice, when you understood with the absolute clarity that only arrives when everything unnecessary has been stripped away, that you have been in this room, not this physical room, but this room for 14 months, that Marcus is not a coat, that the water stain on the ceiling is not shaped like nothing, that something has been building in you and you have been logging it without reading it. The room shifts. One way or another, the moment passes, but the question doesn't. The case closes 4 weeks later. 3 arrests. Cortez is one of them. It is not everything the department wanted, but it is significant. Reyes uses that word in the debrief. Significant. He underlines nothing. He offers his hand. You shake it. The operation is officially closed on a Wednesday. You are reassigned. Desk work while the prosecution builds. Mandatory transition protocol, weekly therapy, bi-weekly check-ins, a return to patrol after 6 months if cleared. Dr. Falk says you're doing well. She says this with clinical confidence. You nod. You drive to your real apartment on a Sunday. You stand in your kitchen. You open the 3rd cabinet from the left and find the mugs immediately, and for a reason you don't analyze, this makes something tighten behind your sternum. Your sister calls. She says you sound more like yourself. You say thank you. You mean it. You're not entirely sure what yourself sounds like anymore, but you're grateful she has a reference point. You return to the precinct. You sit at a desk. You write reports with precise, unambiguous language. You drink your coffee with 2 sugars. You don't smoke. 6 months later, a new officer, 27, 4 years on the force, the same specific quality of belief in the eyes that you remember having, sits across from Reyes in the room above the dry cleaning shop. Reyes is wearing the gray windbreaker. He explains the operation. He explains the timeline. He explains that trust is not given, it is observed into existence. He explains the wire. He explains the exit protocols and the contingency frameworks and the psychological check-ins. The officer nods. Reyes says, "You'll be fine." He means it the way people mean things that are procedurally true and humanly incomplete. The officer leaves. The door closes. And the system, which has no interest in what it cost you, or what it cost anyone before you, or what it will cost whoever comes after, the system continues. It was never waiting for you to be ready. It was never waiting at all.